everyone. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you're watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, I'm going to be chatting with the fabulous Miss Jan Mitchell. So stay tuned.
It's a miracle, baby. Shot chill. Miracle Sims, let's go.
I'm good, but I bet you wishing I would have a one night affair.
Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. As you all can see, I am here with the lovely Miss Jan Mitchell. Hey,
Hello. Hey.
how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you tonight?
I am fine. Things are great now. We've been through a little something.
Yes, we have. We have bonded.
Yes. Look, and I said, now this lady must have a lot to share with us on tonight because Satan has been busy trying to, stop these things from going, but we are still here. So
Yeah.
welcome to the GSL Talk Show, Miss Jan.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. So thank you for letting me know about your talk show and graciously inviting me. It's an honor.
Yes. I'm super excited to chit chat with you as well. And I guess we'll start off by you telling me where you are and just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yes. So my name is Jan Mitchell. I reside in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I am a native. I lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan for a year when I was a child, but have spent most of my life here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am a widow. I am a mother of three daughters, ages 24, 16, and 7. Or, yeah, 7. Listen, she would be upset if I forgot that. But when you have so many spaced apart like that, things get a little hazy sometimes. And people always ask me, they say, what were you thinking? Having children that far apart in age because they're all 9 years apart. And I tell them I wasn't. Me and my husband were just having a good time. So,
Right.
yes,
As you should.
absolutely. So, yes, that is me. I am an author as well. I've published my first 2 books last year. One in March was Suddenly Single, Surviving the Demise of Your Relationship, which was an anthology written with 6 other beautiful queens. Miss Coach Venus Chandler was the visionary for that book. And then there was a spinoff for the Widows Edition, which I actually just published here in December. And so there's been a lot. 2022 was a good year. It was a very good year. Yes. So that is a little bit about me. I'm also a business owner, an entrepreneur, and I also work in the healthcare sector as well too. I sit on the board of directors for the National Association of Healthcare Access Management as the Midwest Regional Delegate. So I represent the patient access professionals in the 6 Midwest states. So to God only be the glory.
Amen. Listen, all those things. I would love to hear about all those things tonight, a little bit more in depth. But first, I have to say, I am sorry to hear about your loss and everything like that. I can't even imagine with everything I went through, y'all. And those that listen and follow me, they know I had a whole journey with being single. I wrote all about it, and stuff like
Yes.
that. And so, and I love being married. I enjoy being married. So I can't imagine losing my husband and everything like that. Would you like to share, with us what happened or?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So, before I met Steve, his name was Stephen Mitchell. We got before I met him, I was a single mother. So, of my 2 daughters, my 2 oldest daughters, when I met him, had went through some things in my life, didn't feel like I was worthy enough or qualified enough to be married, and just had told God, you know what, if you can just keep me saved and help me to stay on the right path, we'll be doing just fine. And it was that year in 2011 that the Spirit of God let me know that, no, you're going to be married this year. And I didn't, of course, at that time, we weren't dating, we were friends. I would send him out on singles conferences to meet single women because he was a divorced guy. So I was his friend. So I was sending him out, oh, yeah, go meet people. I'm a networker, I'm a communicator, I love people. And he was the same as well, too, but didn't know that God had plans for us to be together. And so Steve was a preacher at our church. He was a minister. And, you know, when we got married, my girls adored him. We were married for 5.5 years before he passed away in 2017. He had lupus, which had a lot of symptoms. Of course, if anybody knows about lupus, it comes with some nasty side effects. He had the Raynaud's disease. He had rheumatoid arthritis. There was so much that was going on. And quick fun fact, you know how I just said my daughters are all 9 years apart? Well, me and
Mhm.
Steve were 9 years apart in age. He was 9 years older than me, which,
Oh.
yeah, so I don't know what God has with me in this number nine, but apparently that's my number. So, but but yeah, he had lupus, and he used to do ministry at the prison with our pastor. And one evening coming home, he had an epileptic seizure, and seizures weren't uncommon for him, as that was one of the things that came with lupus.
Mhm.
And But for him to have it while he was awake was different, because normally he would have them at night. They were controlled by medication, but he would have breakthrough seizures every once in a while. So on this particular Sunday, actually, it was after church. He had a seizure when he after he had come back, and it's so ironic because he was fine that morning,
Mhm.
and I remember that Sunday morning, the pastor of the church at that time that I was at, he we were praising God. We had just finished prayer. My husband had finished leading prayer, and the pastor just came to the pulpit all of a sudden, and he said, "You know," he said, "Satan's going to attack somebody in here." He said, "But he will not prevail." And of
Mhm.
course, you know, we went up and praised because we're praisers, we're worshipers. I do love God. I am a born again believer.
Mhm.
But I just, you know, at that time, we just went up and praised. We didn't know it was for us. Because there was another lady that started dancing, and I mean, she just danced her socks off. So I thought it was for her. So I'm going in with her. You know, I'm
Mhm.
celebrating with her. But it was
Mhm.
that night that it hit my house. And
Wow.
so Steve had a seizure when he was coming into the home, and at that time we lived in a apartment on the first floor. So when he was coming in, I heard him. There was this yell that he makes when he would have seizures, and Steve was 6'2", 224 pounds, so he was a lot of man,
Mhm.
and I'm a little woman. I'm 5'4", 130 pounds, so I'm small.
Mhm.
So I hear him having this going into his epileptic seizure, and so I run out the door. He's already in mid fall. In my mind is clicking, okay, you know, he's dead weight at this point. You can't try to catch him or you both are going to be hurt. And plus, the hallway was so large, I figured, okay, he'll just fall in the hallway and he might just hurt his shoulder or something like that. No, no big deal. So, well, as he was halfway down, he had another convulsion and it turned his head towards the wall. He actually ended up slamming his head into the wall, made a hole in the drywall that he hit so hard. And I thought for sure, I said, oh my God, he's broke his skull. Well, he didn't break his skull, but he did break his neck in 3 places. It paralyzed him immediately from his shoulders down. And I didn't know that at the time. And, you know, it was by the grace of God. My neighbor came out and she said, don't move him. And because funny thing about it is she had had a seizure a couple of months back and we had went to her house and helped rescue her. Now she was helping us, and
Mhm.
and she told me don't move him, don't touch him. And I'm glad I didn't, because at that moment I didn't know his neck was broken, and if I had moved him I would have killed him. And so we went through that. He flatlined 4 times in the first 30 days of being hospitalized. Typically when I found out that when someone has a broken neck, they can fuse the neck together, and then they're able to go to rehab, start rehab, go, you know, to the next phase, usually within a week. But because he had lupus, it complicated things.
Mhm.
So that actually led him to a 30-day stay in the neurotrauma ICU. So, and again, he flatlined 4 times during that time. And one time he was down for 12 minutes. But God, because he had no brain damage, he had no further. He was on a respirator. They had him on life support. They had him on a feeding tube. But by the grace of God, because I don't want to take a long, long time telling the story, because I know you got more to ask. But by the grace of God, God weaned him off the life support. He weaned him off the feeding tube. weaned him off the trach. And even when they said he would never move his arms or limbs again, he began to move his arms a little bit. He was able to hold our baby girl because at that time our youngest was 8 months old when that happened. So there was a lot that was going on. 2016 was not a good year. It was not a good year. And so throughout all of that, he ended up becoming septic through a bed sore due to neglect because someone didn't change him in time. And the impacted stool got into an open wound that was not covered. And that's why I always encourage people when you take your loved one to a nursing home, to a hospital, whatever facility, please be there with them. I was there 7 days a week. They didn't know when I was coming because I would always show up. And I didn't tell them when I was coming. I would just show up because I want to know how you're taking care of him. And so I was there a lot, but I still missed that. Where he ended up with the bed sores and someone left it uncovered. So he became septic and passed away 2 weeks after Valentine's Day, which is actually my favorite holiday. So it'll be 6 years here in February that I have been a widow since his passing. But there is a but God to this story.
Mhm.
But I know I'll take a breath and let you ask what you need to, because I can talk.
No, 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 no. By all means, like I said, you feel free because I mean, I want to hear honestly. I want to know, like I said, I can't even imagine and everything like that. And again, I apologize or sorry for you. You know, you and your family. I know that probably this is too much, or whatever. But um, like I said, I just can't even imagine as a wife, and then obviously the children and whatnot as well. I mean, I know they say like rest in peace to Mr. Steven and everything, and but yeah, let's learn more about him and everything. I mean, I'm glad to hear that he was kind of coming around. It wasn't like an instantaneous,
Yes.
situation. So that was, and for shame on those individuals that didn't do their job. And
Yeah. And, and
I'm listening, sister. I'm listening.
no. And that's the thing too, because Steve was resilient. Even through all of that, he was always a jolly man. He was from Arkansas, so he was Arkansas boy too. My mother is from Arkansas. I'm from Indianapolis, but my mom's from Arkansas. So it was interesting that he was from Arkansas. So he had that Southern hospitality. He spoke to everybody. He never met a stranger. Just a great guy, and very jolly all the time. Had a big boisterous laugh, big baritone, deep voice, and he was a lot of fun to be around. And funny thing, my youngest daughter actually looks just like him. She is his face. Now they say
Oh,
she got my forehead. I'm like, now I need to calm down.
the perfect mixture.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
As I say about our
Yeah,
son.
yeah. So yeah, he was a great man. He was a hard worker, and even through that, one thing happened when he was down for that length of time when he had flatline. I remember when he came off the feeding tube and the respirator because for those first 3 months he was unable to talk. So I was literally his voice, and I had to write down what he had to say and hold up the signs and to see if what I was. It was. I had a lot to do in the hospital systems, and I wasn't even into healthcare at that time. I worked at a totally different job, but actually going through that situation is actually what birthed me into my purpose. And but I didn't know my purpose was going to come. Now, here's the caveat, and I'll sometimes go back to the very beginning, just for a quick second before the pastor had mentioned about him about the devil attacking, but he would not prevail. Well, a
Mhm.
month prior, I had visited a church I had attended as a growing up as a child, and I had spent 26 years of my life there. That's where I became born again believer. That's where I began to do missions work and so forth. And I went to the church to hear a message. And there was a preacher there who I've never heard in my life before. I had never heard him. He's never met me, but he was prophesying, and he called me out. He's like, ma'am, he said, I don't know who you are. He said, but he said, but God said to run for your family. He said, because God is great. He's going to shift your career. He's going to shift your life. He said, he's going to bless you like you've never been blessed before. And of course, I got up and I obeyed and I began to praise and worship God. And, not knowing it was actually a month later to the date that my husband had his injury, a month after that man prophesied that. And that whole thing shifted my entire life. And And but Steve, I know one instance when he was down, he had mentioned he had died. Well, he had died. And but when they took him out the respirator, he told me, he said, Jan, he said, I died. He said, I saw myself in the casket. He said, but I heard God speak and said, you're not going anywhere because you've got work to do. Now, of course, for us as believers, we thought that meant God was going to raise him up. You know, we had all these high expectations. But no, God used him right there in the hospital room. He ministered to every doctor, every nurse, every visitor that came in that room. As long as he could speak, he was sharing the gospel with them. And so, you know, it was a lot. God kept his word, because I remember, oh gosh, I'm trying not to talk too much about it because some of it's in my books and then some, but it's, I remember when, you know, the day he was getting ready to pass. Well, actually, it was a couple of days before he passed, because the doctors had already told us he had gotten septic, and you know, they told us, well, you know, to expect the worst. Did we want to put him on palliative care, or did we want to put him on the respirator again? But I know he had talked about how much it hurt when they would put that tube down his throat. So we were, you know, not for the ventilator again. And I remember when the doctor left the room, I looked over at Steve and I said, Steve, you hear what they're saying? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? You know, what decision do you want me to make? And he was like, well, you know, God said, I'm not going anywhere because I got work to do. And when he said it, the moment he said it, the Spirit of God told me to tell, he said, tell him he's already done his work. And so, you know, and I looked at Steve and I said, Steve, I said, God said, you've already done your work. And I just began to remind him of all the work he done in the prison, ministering to men in the prison, all the people he had been a blessing to in the hospital since he'd been there. And he just kind of looked like, oh, okay, that's right. And he, you know, he just kind of sat back. And I remember that night, when going home that evening, we actually used to be over the nursing home ministry for our church as well too. So I still kept that going and still running while he was in the hospital. So I would go do ministry there. And that night, I that same night I got that news, I had to go minister. And so it was like, okay, God, and I went and I ministered, and just, you know, it was a great service. We had a standing room only. There people were listening. And then that night, I went home. And as I was laying down in bed, I heard this song playing over and over in my mind. You know how you get a song stuck in your head and you can't get past it? It's like, oh my God. So the song that kept playing in my mind was the Chicago Mass Choir song, God is my everything. He's my joy and sorrow. He's my hope for tomorrow, the lyrics. And I'm like, why can't I shake this? And I'm like, okay, all right, God, I'll do me this solid. I'll get up and go listen to the song, then I can go back to sleep. And so I got up and, you know, I listened to the song. And while I was listening to the song, I picked them up and I put them down. I danced in my place. And while I was dancing, the spirit of heaviness hit me and it knocked me to my seat. I ended up sitting down. I said, okay, God, I said, I need to know. I said, what's going to happen with Steve? Is he going to live or is he going to die? You don't know. I don't like surprises. So let me know. And, you know, I began to dance again and rejoice in God again. And as I was rejoicing, the Spirit of God told me, he said, I'm going to heal him, but it was not the way that you were looking for. And when he said it, I knew immediately what he was talking about. But because I'm Jan, I asked questions. I said, okay, God, I need you to make this plain for me. What are you telling me? And for those who may not believe that's the Spirit of God, the Holy Ghost will speak to you and lead you and guide you. He does. And that's what I'm speaking of. And, you know, when he told me, when I heard that, he said, I'm going to take him. And I broke down, you know, I hollered. You know, I screamed because I had been with Steve those 5.5 months every day at the hospital. You know, I was worn out as a caregiver, as a mom, as all these other roles I was playing, because the time of his neck injury, spinal cord injury, rather, to the time of his demise was 5.5 months. And so, when God told me that, I boohooed. And now I said I felt like Jacob when he wrestled with the angel, because I literally was up from midnight that night to 5 a.m. that morning, begging and pleading God for my husband's life at that time. And, you know, the one thing, of course, God lets us have our moments, but he reminded me of something that sticks with me even to this day. He said, Jan, I never promised you that man would not leave you, but I myself have said I will never leave you nor forsake you, but I need you to trust me. And I told him, I
Mhm.
was just honest. I said, God, I said, I trust you for a lot of things, but this one right here, I said, I don't know. And so that kind of began a different journey, but I'll take a breath and let you ask what you want.
Ooh, Lord. Well, I mean, woo, okay. Yeah, well, one of the first things that really, really just hit me, like in here, that you said that this situation is what birthed you into your purpose. That just
Mm,
it did something to
yes.
be honest. To hear that because and see these are the things that we don't like, right? I call it
Mhm.
hope when I talk on the daily inspiration. We don't like this part when God answers us in ways that we don't necessarily want it to be that way.
Yes.
um but you've already established that if it wasn't this way, the work that you're currently doing, I guess wouldn't be getting done by you. um and I'm just trying to not get emotional about it. Because I just know how. I mean, well, I see. I don't know, like in regards to like what all you've done and who touch since this has happened when it comes to you know, your ministry and your husband and the purpose that you speak of. I don't know in detail, right, what all you've done, but I just know in general, um, a lot of times our purposes are always connected to the people or the circle of influence that the Lord sends us, and so I can only imagine like how many people have been, and not even just about the amount of people either, because I mean I don't think that's as important as just even the one-to-one thing, you know.
Yes.
Um, so I can only sit here and try to speculate and imagine like what all has come from, you know, because I mean we've heard that you have books now and things like that too,
Mhm.
so that's even more fruit and whatnot. So I mean, well, thank you for sharing about Mr. Steve, and
Absolutely.
thank God for him, being the man he was and everything like that. Obviously to you, but then to everyone that he ministered to as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna just hush and listen. See, I knew something was behind this whole thing. Technology, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Y'all don't understand. There was some issues going on before we started talking, and I'm like, you must got something to say.
Yeah.
I was like, what? You got something to say? And here it is. Here it is. And then she just getting started, y'all. My goodness. All right. Well, I know she like, girl, I didn't come here to just talk about Steve this whole night. So, but I mean, it's just some. Maybe it's because like I feel like maybe over the past few days I've been not say focused on marriage, but like
Mhm.
it's really been on my mind about marriages and kingdom
Mm.
marriages. The way
Yes.
that being Satan tries everything to attack kingdom marriages in particular, and really marriage in particular as well. Like, he don't want people, get married out here and stuff. And
Yeah.
because that is an honorable thing, at least that's what God created it to be. So um like I said, it's already touching me as a wife, you know what I mean, and to hear this and whatnot. And but hearing again about the ministry, hearing again about what has come from it, or at least a little bit that you've shared this far about what has come from it. um I don't know, I just feel like this is a powerful testimony. The Lord be doing this be all the time. GSL talk show, y'all guess, I don't know. Anyway, it just be blowing my mind all every time I talk to somebody. I be like, Lord, you really did this, and now you made this moment. Like, this is crazy,
Yeah.
and this gonna come out right on time for somebody. Like, I already know, like, whenever
Yes.
it come out, it's gonna come out right on time for somebody. Like, anyway, so Miss Jan,
Mhm.
where would you like to go from here? Now, if you want to keep talking about Mr. Steve, that's fine. Because I mean, obviously, this gentleman, you said 5 years of marriage,
5.5. Yeah. Not.
and then wait, and that was the same amount of time when it came to the months. I'm finna go. Hold on.
Oh.
You said
Oh. You
how
know
many
what?
months?
You know what? You just brought that to me because I have not even considered that. Yes, ma'am. 5.5 months. before he passed, and 5.5 months of marriage.
Wow.
Wow, that that is something else. Wow.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So y'all ain't finna do this to me today. Okay. So okay, I'm just going. Nah, I know I make this joke all the time. I ain't trying to be a prophet liar out here
Yeah,
now, right?
I know that's right.
But I'm gonna make an assumption. Suddenly single,
Uh-huh.
inspired by. Okay, so
Yeah.
that'll be a good old transition.
Yes.
Let's get into
Yes. Wait a minute. Hold on
suddenly
now.
single.
Wait.
So now you find yourself suddenly single. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Listen, we'll
Oh
keep on
boy.
prophesying because you just wait a minute. It was 5.5 months of marriage, five and a half, or excuse me, 5.5 years of marriage, 5.5 months before, and now I'm 5.5 as a single because it'll well a little bit over 5.5 because it'll be 6 months, excuse me, 6 years in February. So God, does that mean a breakthrough? Yet breakthrough marriage is coming. Is that why
Oh
you talking about
Lord.
these kingdom marriages? Because that's been sitting in my spirit, and I've been hearing it. It's like, okay, that God is getting ready to send kingdom, raise up kingdom marriages in this season, and I already told the Lord, yes, sending.
I mean, listen, it's something about being a wife out here, like and I
Yes.
love. I mean, not just to be a wife, right? But the companionship. You know what I'm saying? It's the I don't know. It's nothing like it. Like I've been enjoying. I mean, we what 6 years in ourselves. Well,
So
this will be year 7 once we get in September if the Lord's will. And I guess I always desired this moment in my life. You know what I mean? I always was like, well, Lord, wait, like it's so funny because you said even earlier, it was like, well, Lord, as long as you keep me safe, like that was
yes,
me. This is the
that's real.
inspirational GSL. I was like, Lord, listen,
That's real.
and it's so funny because I feel like I'm always defending GSL, which I'm gonna stop because I feel like at this point I've met people that get it.
Hmm.
But I'm just talking to you, I guess, just girl talk right now,
Yeah.
basically. That like I don't know what people think when they see the name. I don't know what they think, but I think if you just watch the content, you'll get everything. You'll get my journey, obviously, but then you also get like way more when it comes to talk show, and then there's so much more that go. It honestly, it, it's so much, Miss Jan. I know we probably need to talk about outside of this so I can tell
Yes.
you everything. But basically, like I just say this: God has like expanded. This was only a talk show in my head when he gave it to me in the beginning, but it's more. It's become much more than that. Like it's become. I feel like it's a channel. You know what I mean? I feel like it's
Mm.
a. Not say network, but I was about to say
No, say
network.
network, grab network. Yes, if that's what the Lord
Right,
dropped in your
well,
spirit, grab network. Yes, ma'am.
but you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's multiple shows. It's multiple, you know what I mean? And so yeah, Kingdom Marriages is needing to be a part of the I mean, we obviously I feature different couples on this talk show, but
Mhm.
there is something about like the marriage aspect because people, girl, why we talking about this? Why are we talking about this? People feel some way about marriage, and it's not good.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people
Mhm.
will feel some way. Like I talk about this all the time on the Daily Inspiration. There's this group that I'm a part of on Facebook. It's called Let's Be Clear. Shout out to Let's Be Clear. um, and every now and then people are posting there and they be like, just about random stuff. And a lot of times it's about relationship stuff though. And I noticed there'll be men in there. Sometimes I feel like it's mostly men though that'll post it about negatively about marriage, but like, see, this is why marriage, da da da, or this is why it ain't good for a man to get married, da 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 da. And I'm like, why y'all so mad about marriage? Like, it's a beautiful union. It's a beautiful thing. Like, if you marry the right person and all of
Yeah.
that, like, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously it's a process and stuff. I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm perfect nor my husband, whatever, but I say all the time, I feel like he's perfect for me. And I be thanking God
Yes.
all the time for like him, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't imagine me doing even this, right? With if I was with someone else or whatever, especially the person I was with before him, but dang, we ain't here to talk about that. So suddenly single then.
Yes.
But maybe not for long. I don't know. Come on back
Yes,
and
yes. Come on,
with that
Jesus.
kingdom spouse.
Yeah,
Y'all are
it's like,
welcome to come back on GSL and talk
yeah,
to
we'll be here.
us. I'm gonna be on the lookout. Be like, oh, she's single no
Listen, I told my best friend, I said, I said, you won't even have to ask. All you're going to look up and see a big picture of a rock on Facebook is going to be my profile picture. I'm like, okay, she's clowning. Yes,
Yes.
I am.
Well, we'll see what the Lord do.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so girl. What I'm talking about this. Okay, so since we continue the conversation, kind of, but basically, long story short, my husband he tells me if something basically something happens to me, he's not going to get married again. And I'm like, I feel like you're saying that I've ruined marriage for you, like, because I'm not gonna say that, like, even though I don't want nothing to happen to him, but by all means, but obviously, I'm sure there was a healing process between. Then you just said it's almost 6 years, so obviously, you know what I mean. This
Hmm.
ain't no quick thing.
Oh
Okay,
no.
she ain't all of a sudden got over Mr. Steve now, y'all. Just I'm pretty sure Mr. Steve got a special place on her heart. Okay,
Oh
for
yes.
anybody watching, like what she means, she ready to move on. What she?
Yeah. I'm ready to move on. No. And that's the thing I even talk about even in my book. I share, just because he died didn't mean I had to die. you know
Mm,
and I know
mm,
if it was vice versa, I would want him to move on, because that's the
mm,
greatest legacy and honor you can show someone that you love, is by healing and moving forward, and being happy again. I couldn't imagine, and thank God I don't believe that from heaven, since the word tells us there's no tears in heaven. I assume that they cannot see what's going back down here on earth. So I would be, because if we could, I wouldn't want to see, Steve balled up in the corner crying over me. I would want to see him happy and moving forward. And at the end of the day, one thing God did remind me, because I was a single mother for 14 years before God brought Steve into my life. And one thing God told me was, reminded me one day when I was kind of having a rough moment, was that before Steve was, I am. So he let me know, in other words, if
mm-hmm,
I sustained you before, I'm powerful and mighty enough to sustain you now.
mm,
And yes, now I see marriage as a gift, an honor, and a privilege. And you're
mm,
right. I hear so many people now, and I believe God is shifting even in this season, that He's healing the minds and hearts of men and women. I do feel that, because I have heard in the past so many people that are upset with marriage, or they in the church and they don't want to talk about sex, but sex was God's idea. We wasn't that smart nor that
come
creative.
on,
It was
right,
His ideal. Marriage, love, and
exactly.
sex was all God's ideal. And
Mm,
so, when I hear, different people, I had a gentleman a couple of years back, when I first started dating, after Steve had passed, he mentioned he wasn't ready. He didn't want to be married because of the bad experience he had in his previous marriage. But it's like, you can't blame the institution of marriage for two individuals' decisions. It's still
come
up.
on.
It's not the institution that sinned or caused the transgression. It was the two
Mm-hmm,
individuals. And if you're able to be mature enough to heal that and move forward, as I always say too, if you can be hurt, you can be healed. Where there's an up, there is a down. Where there's a
mm,
down, there is an up. So if you can
mm-hmm,
be hurt, you can heal, you can be delivered, you can love again if you're willing to open your heart. Have I had my heart broken? Absolutely. Absolutely. Many times before I met Steve, since I met Steve, after Steve, pre, post, and what I almost said pre postpartum, but and that too. But it's just, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater,
mm-hmm,
and I trusting God that He's going to raise up kingdom men that are going to love
mm-hmm,
these healed men, and that we be
mm-hmm,
healed women, because a lot of times as women, and we talk about, well, I want that Boaz and I want this and I want that, but what are you bringing to the table? Or Ruth, what are you bringing? And I
Mhm.
remember Naomi specifically telling Ruth, because Ruth was a widow, and telling her, take off your mourning clothes. And I had to share this with somebody the other couple of weeks ago. Take off your mourning clothes. You want
Mm,
your Boaz to find you, but you're still covered in tragedy. You're still covered in drama
mm,
and trauma because you haven't allowed God to heal you and deal with you. And so you're carrying this
mhm,
bitterness. So your husband can't find you because all he see is anger. You can't
mhm,
find your wife because you're blinded by a wrong perception of women. And so it's
mm,
and I shared that I shared in the testimony, and you'll have to stop me, but before before I got married, and I don't know your testimony, I haven't heard all of your testimony, but it sounds like we have some things in common. But
mhm.
this may not be in common. You may not want this one to be in common with you, but
Uh-oh.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you said, uh oh, disclaimer, yeah.
No, no, no judgment on my end.
But but before as a young lady, I dealt with struggle with low self-esteem, rejection, and so because of that, I had a pretty wild past growing up. And so when I came, but I had experienced a lot of things before I was even probably 25 years old. So by the time I came into God, I gave my life to the Lord at the age of 21. For the third time, I always say. I surrendered for again. But I ended up when I came in, I loved God, loved the people and so forth. But when it came to marriage, I still had an old mentality. And so I remember we were in a women's conference and I'm just talking, oh, I just thank God for me and blah, 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 blah. And the Spirit of God said, no, you don't. He said, you really don't care for men. He said, you're angry
Mm,
with men. You don't like men. And he wasn't saying I was a lesbian or anything like that, but he was just saying you don't like them
yeah,
because I
yeah.
began to look at them as objects as I felt like they had started treating me. So God had
Mm,
to go in and heal my mind, heal my perspective, how I saw men before he even presented Steve to me. He took me through
mm,
a process that he had to heal me. And it didn't take him long at all. And the thing about it, it doesn't take God a long time to heal us. All he needs is a willing participant. Healing is a choice. You have the option and you have the to say, hey, I'm like he told the man at the pool of Bethesda, get your bed up and walk. The man had plenty of excuses. Well, ain't nobody put me in the pool. Okay, get your bed up and walk. How long are you gonna sit here and die? Why sit here ye and die? Why sit here
mm,
at the pool of depression, at the pool of oppression when you don't have to? And
mm,
you can get up and make a decision. Power of death and life are in your tongue. You have the authority as a believer to say, you know what? The word tells me that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So that tells me I have a decision to make. And I think of that even in a natural sense. Every day that God blesses us to wake up, we see a brand new morning. It is up
mhm,
to us to decide if we're going to get up and take advantage of that morning or we're going to lay down there and waddle in and just pull the cover over our heads and say, no, I don't want to live today. Well, I choose life. I choose to live. So what that tells me, he said, when weeping uh, endures for the night, but joy comes in the morning. I have a decision to make. Do I want to get up and say, good morning, joy? Good morning, peace? Good morning, life? Or am I going to stay there in the darkness? No, I choose to live. And I say, good morning. Good morning, joy. Good morning, restoration. Good morning, my new husband. Good morning, finances. Good morning, everything that needs to come to me in this year, because this is the year of domination and I'm obtaining everything. And I do mean everything that God has for me.
listen, listen. I can't. I'm over here just trying to pick up all the mics that you're dropping and the gems. I'm like, Lord, this she done dropped the number. Like, oh Lord. Oh, listen, I don't know if y'all ain't caught something on tonight, then I don't know. Y'all ain't listening. I don't know what's happening. Man, and to me, honestly, a lot of this is just confirmation. It's confirmation of some things that I have been studying and all. It just
Praise
all
God.
right. Well, we ain't even got to the book.
Yeah.
Woo! Because then she said, "Look, y'all," she said it. And he took me through a period. I'm over here like the cultivation period of single creek. That's my book. I was like, I
Yes.
know. Yes.
Yes.
And then you had said that thing about what was about like not say depression. It was you. how did you say it? I don't want to get it wrong. You said that you were going through um oh, I want to say the exact words. I can't remember now. Oh goodness. The moment where you was like, oh, you might not want this, and then you had did I had made my joke or whatever, and then he's like, oh, she said what?
Yeah,
But then what you had said right after that,
yeah,
basically it made me think about back in the day, back single miracle. And for me, during that time, I was dealing with what I called Mr. Right Now. It's just like, well, he's here right now. So
yeah,
I'm just taking what I can get around here. Like,
yeah,
who knows if this is going to happen again. Thank the Lord for change, y'all. I
yeah,
thank the Lord.
yes. That's the truth.
Listen, 'cause when you single, you be like, well, I'm single. So, well, okay, he's showing me some attention then. Okay, well, let's
Hmm.
just go with that.
Yeah.
So the Lord came and was like, so you say you want to be married, right? So I'm a real, you need to stop all that.
Yes. Talk
Uh-huh.
about it. Talk about it. Yes.
Like
Because
you have to change up some things. And
yes.
honestly, can I say this, sister? I mean, I'm not
Oh
saying
yeah.
it's you. I'm just saying women. It not say you the first woman that I heard to say what you just said in regards to like what you bring it to the table stuff. I feel like there's a lot of women that say that, but like because people say they want something, but then they don't want to make no change. Like they want to say this is me and all this stuff, and it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
because if you come to Christ, you're supposed to be new. Like you're not supposed to be the
Absolutely.
same, absolutely the
Yes.
same. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. I called mine the cultivation period, and I'm not saying that was the only one I went through. I mean, obviously there's multiple cultivation periods, but that one was
Hmm.
my single one, like the one where I was like really, really focused on becoming. Um, well, then I was just like, well, Lord, I'm ready for marriage now, and da 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 da. And he was like, well, no, you ain't, because you need to change that and that and that.
Yeah.
And I'm really like, what do you mean? And you're like, oh, that don't look too good now that I look in the mirror. Oh, okay.
Yes.
And and I started to make like changes, but then I would talk to people, and it's like they ain't willing to make no changes, Miss J.
Hmm.
But they want all the things. I mean, I hear pastors talk about it all the time lately as well. It's like people want all the blessings and the benefits and all the things that God offers, but you don't want to, you know, do nothing He telling us to do.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got me thinking about all of that as listening to you just now with everything you just said when you was dropping all the mics. But anyway, so do you want to tell us about the book or? Oh, we can just keep talking, girl, because this is good.
Yes, yes, I could definitely share about the book. Yes, so Suddenly Single Widows Edition is my baby, and then of course the first one I mentioned is Surviving the Demise of Your Relationship, which was a God connection. Because before the pandemic, I had been off social media for at least 15 years. Yes, I was totally off. I was no Facebook, no Instagram, no anything. And I liked it that way. I like the incognito life. So that was great. I wasn't doing anything great. Well, let me not say that. Being a mother is great. Being a
Yeah.
wife is great. Doing ministry is great. Going to work every day is great. So I was, so let's rephrase that. But I wasn't in
Mm-hmm.
the spotlight. Like I feel like God is catapulting me into. It's blowing my mind, to be honest, what God is doing. It's like what I was thinking about it even this morning going to work. I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, Lord, what is going on with my life right now? Things are happening that I've never planned for, never imagined in my life that I'm doing. And it's like, and they're all good things. And it's like, okay, but God did say He will reward us for our suffering. There's a reward
Mm-hmm.
for it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, there's things that we are rewarded for from God. But yes, that book is part of it because I actually, funny story, I had met this guy. I had met a pastor who had a mutual friend who also was a pastor over in Texas. And, we had all met in person one day here in the city. He had come down to be a speaker at this guy's church, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I went to the Lord had put him and his ministry, his wife and their ministry on my heart that morning to be a blessing to them. And, and it was like, okay, so I'm scrolling through his Facebook page and I did what God had told me to do to be a blessing to him and his ministry. And while I kept scrolling through his page to see what all he was doing, blah, 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 all of a sudden I come across this lady that's a friend of his, and she's like, I'm getting ready to write this book, and I need women, who would like to come along and be co-authors on this book. It's called Suddenly Single: Surviving the Demise of Your Relationship, and we're talking about all of them were divorced. She was talking about divorce. I'm like, but I lost the relationship, mine's through death, and but it just, how God connects things, and it just pulls at you like I have to do this. Now I've never written a
Mhm.
book in my life.
And now you got to look at the Lord.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And I reached out to my friend and asked her if she wanted to join me because my best friend is also a widow. And it's funny because it was four of us that were really close, under the age of 50, that out of the group, I was the last one to be married and I was the first one widowed, but the rest of them are widowed too. All of us under 50 and widowed. And
Mhm.
so, she says, "No, I'm not going to do it." Well, okay. So I ended up connecting with these women, one from Florida, from California, and we wrote this book together. And we met each other for the first time last May in Los Angeles. We did the book launch. I had never been to California, had never been to Los Angeles. It was my
Mm.
first time traveling out there. I actually was out for a conference as well too with the National Association of Healthcare in San Diego. So I flew to San Diego, and then they paid for me to fly to Los Angeles. And it's like, which I heard later somebody made a joke. They said, "You really took a flight from San Diego to Los Angeles? It's like an hour drive." I'm like, yeah, yeah. Somebody else is paying for it. Yes, I am. But
Well, yeah.
yes. So that was the first book. Had a great turnout. Again, shout out to Coach Venus Chandler and Miss Audra Hurd with IBG Publications, all Christian women that were part of this, all Black women that wrote this book. And so we had that conference, and then from that, people were like, "Okay, we want a widows edition," and I'm like, "Oh, really?" And I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be tell the real truth of Jesus here. Uh, Widowhood was not necessarily the ministry I wanted, and I said, God, I said, yeah, you want to kind of grieve, move forward, and go on, but it kept tugging and tugging. And my publisher's like, Jan, she's like, you really, I believe God is really going to bless through this book. You need to write this book. And at first, it was going to be an anthology like the first book, but I couldn't get anybody to write anybody. And I get it because people sometimes are still processing or they've gone past it and they don't want to revisit that anymore. That's real. And it's not that they haven't forgotten their loved one, but they just don't want to revisit that because when you're writing, you do have to revisit some places sometimes. And that was kind of my fear too. But I wrote, and at first I'm like, oh my God, don't let me be one of those people. And nothing against anybody, any of our indie art authors, because any book that we make and publish is amazing. But I didn't want my book to look like a pamphlet. I didn't want it to be 10 pages. I'm doing all this hard work and got this big book. I'm like, oh my God, what all can I say? Because the first book was 100 and I think 183 pages. And so when I got done typing everything up, my publisher, I said, all right, how many pages I got? She said, oh, you got 167. I said, I said, yes, all by myself. So,
Mhm.
so it was a
Mhm.
big accomplishment, but that book seems to be doing extremely well. That book is just people, and the funny thing about it, it's not even widowed people that are buying the books. It's widowed, it's single, it's men, it's women that's purchasing this book because I talk about, my history before I got married and talk about how to prepare for marriage and how I prepare myself for marriage. And, so a lot of people are buying the book and promoting it. And I've seen more success. The first book was amazing and did well, but this book seems to be soaring. And it's like God has his hand on it. It's like, okay, God, well, you do what you want to do through this book. Pray it's a blessing because it's a Christian based book. So there's some spirituality in it, but it's also practical. So I deal with the widow's fire, which is that desire for intimacy, sexual intimacy, and you have no spouse. Now, what do you do? I talk
Mm.
about, in that book about and how to handle that in a healthy, balanced way, how to get to know your body, talk about depression and suicide. There's different things that's in that book. It's not a heavy book. It's not your typical grief book, because there's humor in there, because I am a humorous person, at least I think I am. But and it talks about living again, and just really taking those steps to move forward, and the things that I've done personally, to help, like, I flew myself for the first time. I took my first trip, well, flew out of town by myself for the first time, out of the to Hawaii, last year and 2 year the year before that, for my birthday. I've never been to Hawaii, and flew out there, had the time of my life. Actually, you probably saw it on my Facebook page. I went skydiving.
Oh, I didn't see. Okay,
Yeah.
girl. This was now. I want to do indoor skydiving.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'm gonna do the real thing. I don't know. We're gonna see what the Lord do, but
Just once. You know what? It was amazing.
Mm,
It was kind of a last minute decision. I'm like, you know what? I'm in Hawaii. Why not? It's my
yeah.
birthday. Let's do it.
Hmm.
But when the planes start going higher than I thought it should have been going, I said, y'all, can I change my mind? And they're like, no, we're going. I'm like, oh, but it was 10,000 feet in the air, and it was the most exhilarating experience I've had in my life. Probably the only time I'll do it in my life, but it was good. I can say it's off my bucket list now.
Yes, girl. Listen, live your life vision. Listen, if the book's anything like you've been talking tonight, which I'm sure it is, then I mean, I'm sure again it's the blessing. I mean, obviously, you already shared it. It's been a blessing to people, but for all walks of life, and so kudos to you for keep going.
Thank
But there's another like similarity that we have in regards to, because my shout out to my friend. I'm about to call you out again, sis. The reason I have my single book is because we were supposed to team up and do a book, and I was writing my part. She was supposed to be writing her part, and she never wrote her book.
Uh-oh. Friend,
So I was like,
friend.
well, I got my part. But to God be the glory for those projects that go like that.
Yes, yes.
So congratulations on your 2 books, ma'am. I'm sure they both are going to be doing great work for the kingdom and everything like that. I'm glad that you're touching on those real topics and stuff. And it seems like you got a little GSL
Yeah.
situation up in there and whatnot. Some good
Times 10.
help the ladies and gentlemen, whoever reads, help us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's a real thing. When you were talking about that marriage earlier, and even I talk, kind of touch on in the book a little bit about how, even as a widow, because I became a widow when I was 38. So I was 38 years old when I became a widow. Steve was 47 when he passed. But, we just I look at the fact, especially in the church, it seems like there's a double standard to women getting married again after a divorce or a death of a spouse, where you may see the man they get married almost overnight to somebody else. But the
Mm.
moment the woman makes a move, it's like, oh, why she's moving too fast? Oh, she's, what's she doing? And, but we talk about that in the book too. But yeah, I get pretty, because there's a lot of things that we face, as single women, period, even before a marriage. There's a lot of things that we have to battle with, stigma, and different misogynistic men who want you to, not, and thank God for men in sincerity this time, because God healed my heart. But some men they have a misogynistic view of women still, even in this day. They think, I want the trophy wife, to look pretty and sit back, and that's not me. We pretty, both we fine as wine. But I believe in putting my work in. I've always done some kind of street ministry, some kind of ministry somewhere, outside of the home. So that's my personality. But it's just, so much that we go through, I think, as women being single, and we even hear about the stigma about, they think if you say you desire to be married, oh, you're being thirsty. And that's one that drives me nuts. It's like, okay, no, but you're over there with a spouse. So at what point in time were you thirsty? But it's, yeah. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Look, that sounds like something I said back in the day. People tell me to be patient and all that. I'm like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. We can go cuddle. Like, I got
Yeah.
me a body pillow. That's it.
Yes. And it's getting flat.
Girl. Yes. That's real.
Yeah, it is.
Oh goodness. Miss Jan, listen, I know you one of these people I can sit here and talk to all night. So you probably got other things to do and stuff as well. Um, and I mean, I don't know if you want to get into like your career life or any of that type of stuff, or motherhood or any of that, but you could definitely before I tell you what, I'm gonna leave it to you. Feel free. Is there anything you would like to chit chat about before you go?
It's your floor. Whatever you want to ask, I'm here. I'm open. You know, open book. Yeah, make it good. You look like you're thinking hard over there. Make it good.
It's like,
Yeah.
where? Oh Lord, why you? So I feel the conviction again because I feel like I just told you earlier how GSL gonna be more shows and more channels and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So I'm about to ask the people, but I need to ask you too. You gonna be on our dating show?
Oh yes.
Now
Oh,
I
that would
gotta
be
do this
fun.
dating show I've been talking about.
Ooh, that would
I
be
gotta
fun.
do it. You gonna We're gonna get us a good old Christian GSL dating show or something like
There
that.
you
Y'all be
go.
on the lookout. We're gonna speak that thing. Look, she already said she had
Yes.
her phrase for 2023. I've been saying it's abundance 2023. You
Yes.
said something real good a second ago. I don't want to misquote
Dominate.
you.
Dominate.
Daddy is dominating in 2020. Dominating and abundance. So listen, we finna get these dating shows together because obviously
Hmm.
there's room.
Yes.
Get Miss Jan on here. Listen, don't be in her DMs, y'all. Just catch her on
Yeah.
Miss Jan say, "Oh yeah, y'all can be in my DMs."
Yeah.
Did she
Well,
get the show ready?
look, there's some stipulations though, but it's funny because somebody showed up in my DM today, and they were being
I didn't know that. Listen, Lord.
and and one of the things I had to correct them a little bit. They were nice and everything, but they were like, "Are you
Mhm,
single, sweetheart?" And I'm like, let me stop you there. I'm not comfortable with people call me pet names when you have
mhm,
not established a relationship with me. And so that
mhm,
to me, because that's a red flag. It's like, don't call me sweetheart
mhm,
or pet names. We're not at that level. We're strangers at this point. Approach me as I will approach you.
mhm,
But he
mhm.
was very polite. He did apologize. He said, I didn't mean to offend you. I said, no offense taken. We're good. I said, but I'm just, educating you, enlighten you how I expect to be talked to.
This is okay. Don't be trying to. You go on her DMs, which I guess we're gonna get to in a moment because she got to tell all the social medias. Okay,
Yeah.
so don't come correct.
Yes.
Look, Miss Jan got me on here acting silly now. She like that got silly miracle now. Oh Lord.
Yes.
Look, we need to get up. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Please, Miss Jan, share your how can we get in touch with you and learn more about your ministries and things like that? Where can we go?
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm on Facebook under Jan Mitchell. I keep it pretty simple. I also do have an author page, which is author Jan Mitchell, also on Facebook. On Instagram, I am author Jan Mitchell. And who else do I have? I'm on LinkedIn under Jan Mitchell. So again, like I said, I keep it pretty simple. Um, that's for my social media sites, and then from there you'll see my business. Business. I have one currently, which is the Innovative PR Company LLC. I do content editing, and I also do customer service training because that is something that is near and dear to my heart. I am anal about good customer service. And then here in the spring of this year, I actually will be launching my first nonprofit for the widow community. It's called She Moves Forward. We're going to offer grief coaching as well as art therapy. So my 16-year-old daughter is going to do the art therapy piece because she loves to draw. And so she's going to be assisting me with that. And that's going to be linked with our ministry. Shout out to my bishop, Michael Keenan, and my First Lady Prophetess, Dr. Annette Keenan of Christ Our Healer Ministries here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I also, too, have a talk show.
Let
It's,
me find out.
yes, it's under the church's ministry. It's a it's we say it's a singles ministry, but it really we minister from multiple levels because we both of us have been married. Me and my co-host, which is my best friend Brandy Doss, she's a licensed mental health counselor. So we talk about life, but the show is called Well Hades. It's the PC version of Well Hell. So that's so we do that on the weekends as well too. So I keep a pretty busy, full schedule. But yeah,
Mm,
that's the things that you can where you can find me, but not so busy that I don't know how to live in balance because I believe that it's so important, especially with me being a mother. I'm also am a grandmother. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and so I got a house full of women. And then my mom stays with me as well. I'm her primary caregiver as she's
mm,
going through some health challenges. So I have a lot that I take care of in the midst of all the other things that I do as well too. So self
mm,
care is one thing I definitely stress to anybody I talk to, and I do myself. I take matter of fact, oh
mm.
yes, my favorite holiday, Valentine's Day, is coming up. I got a plan where I'm going to take myself out on a date.
Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
indeed.
That'll be my self care for February.
Love it. I love it. I love it. And where can we find your book as well?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking. It is on Amazon. Just put in Jan Mitchell and Suddenly Single. It should pull both books if you just put Suddenly Single and Jan Mitchell, but that is where you can find it. You can also find it on the Speak Up Sis bookshelf here, which is on Facebook as well too. So it is listed there. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, indeed. Look now, look, am I gonna invite myself on y'all show? Y'all want I
Look,
talk about being
oh,
single?
listen,
How to
we will
say
get on there and clown because we,
we see how this going. We see how
yeah, yes, we
I'll
would
be
love to.
professional. Look, maybe I'll be more professional than I was tonight. But
No, don't. No, we're very chill. We're very very down to earth, ladies. We love God. We love life. We love people, and so yeah, we do professional things in life, but we know how to just be, just be.
yeah, indeed. I love that. I love
Yes,
that. Well, hopefully here's some more endeavors. We have shows to do apparently. You
yeah,
gotta come back when the spouse shows up and
yeah.
all kinds of things. So I mean,
Amen.
I guess this is the first of many conversations for us,
Yeah.
maybe. But I truly appreciate you stopping by GSL tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you to your amazing audience. Keep supporting this beautiful lady here. Just keep showing the love to her and promoting her and moving her forward. I definitely believe in moving things forward. So continue to support her, continue to celebrate her. If she does have a cash app or ways of means, be a blessing to her. And matter of fact, I'll have to get that information from you myself because I want to be a blessing to your ministry. So I do appreciate you inviting me on. So thank you.
This came out of nowhere, y'all. Listen, look, they be like Miracle put up to it or something. Listen,
Mm-mm.
but let me go. She already done almost. You almost got me tonight, Miss Jan. No tears for me tonight. Yes, let me go before you get me started. But
Yes.
again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Yes.
I will end it there. Boomer, you know what to do.
Wishing I would have a one night.
Thank you so much for watching the GSL Talk Show. And thank you to Miss Jan Mitchell for joining us tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And please check out Miss Jan and her endeavors. Good night.